Hello and welcome to the Kim Iversen Show. All right, before we get started tonight, I do have some show announcements. I feel like I'm back in school. We got some announcements. Let me tell you about them. Tomorrow, there will be no show because there is a lot of construction happening here at my studio, and there's going to be more of it tomorrow. So no show tomorrow. We're just going to have to, because we got to get out of here. We can't be around. And tonight's show will be a little bit shorter than usual, but then we're going to be back next week as normal. So thanks for bearing with us. We've just got a lot of construction, and it's a zoo around here. I'm not going to lie, but we're gonna get through it, and next week it's going to be just fine. All right, tonight we do have, like I said, a condensed show, and so we're going to be focusing on this one topic that is getting some attention. It's getting a lot of attention because, well, you'll see why, but it's a much more complicated situation than what many are making it out to be. We're going to be focusing on Pakistan and Imran Khan tonight. We're going to do a bit of a deep dive into this. And the reason we're focusing on this tonight is because many are concerned after a story was released in The Intercept that the political turmoil and jailing of Imran Khan is the result of another U.S.-backed coup, which is easy to believe because the U.S. is often involved in coups around the world. But the situation is a lot more complicated than that. And the reason we should be paying attention is because we shouldn't get lazy and just assume everything that happens is because of some plot by the U.S. establishment. Because if we're wrong once and they can prove it, then they'll discredit us anytime that we make that claim again. And that wouldn't be good if we're more often right than wrong. And so that's why it's important to break this down and get this right. Now, I differ with most of my independent media journalist friends on this one. I think I'm the lone wolf in the sea of the independent journalists who does not believe this is actually a U.S.-backed coup. And that's okay. You know, I've been the lone person before in situations. I mean, with COVID, I was very much alone in the very beginning. And it took a while for people to start kind of rolling and turning and realizing that things were different than the way they were seeing them right off the bat. This is obviously not as important as COVID. I mean, this is Pakistan, it's Imran Khan. But many of us still care about this because the U.S. is engaged in so many coups around the world, claiming to be proponents of democracy. And, we're out there just trying to spread goodness. And in reality, we're just toppling regimes, putting in our own people, and really, serving our own interests. And so that's why it's so important to pay attention to it. But I don't believe that's what's going on in Pakistan. And like I said, it's important because if you're wrong once and they can point to that and they say, oh, look, you conspiracy theorist, and you believe that and that had nothing to do with this, then they could discredit anything else that you say and that you believe. And so it's really important because the U.S. does do this a lot. And we want to make sure that when we call them out, people take us seriously. So that's why it's important to get this story right. So this is all about a cipher. Now, here's the Intercept story that came out. This was written by my old co-host at Rising, Ryan Grimm, and also Murtaza Hussain, who's been on this show. Both of them great journalists. And this is the story. Secret Pakistan cable documents U.S. pressure. Cable documents U.S. pressure to remove Imran Khan. With the subtitle, "All will be forgiven," said a U.S. diplomat, if the no confidence vote against Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan succeeds. So first, I'm going to lay out for you why many people believe that this is a U.S.-backed coup and why that is somewhat believable. But once you go deeper and you actually just do a little bit of it's not a lot of investigating, but once you just go deeper into the history of Pakistan, it starts to become really clear that, Pakistan is just Pakistan. And they've got a layer upon layer upon layer of problems there. Now, this story says the U.S. State Department encouraged the Pakistani government in a March 7th, 2022 meeting to remove Imran Khan as prime minister over his neutrality on the Russian invasion of Ukraine, according to a classified Pakistani government document obtained by The Intercept. The meeting between the Pakistani ambassador to the United States and two State Department officials has been the subject of intense scrutiny, controversy, and speculation in Pakistan over the past year and a half as supporters of Khan and his military and civilian opponents jockeyed for power. The political struggle escalated on August 5th when Khan was sentenced to 3 years in prison on corruption charges and taken into custody for the second time since his ouster. So he's sitting in jail now, Imran Khan, the former prime minister of Pakistan. Khan's defenders dismissed the charges as baseless. The sentence also blocks Khan, Pakistan's most popular politician, from contesting elections expected in Pakistan later this year. So he's not allowed to run. He's been banned from running, and he's been thrown in jail for 3 years on corruption. His defenders, they claim that these charges are baseless. They probably are. And he's also being blocked from running for elections. That looks like a political way to keep him out of the political process. It probably is. It's absolutely political. It goes on to say in this, 1 month after the meeting with U.S. officials documented in the leaked Pakistani government document, a no-confidence vote was held in parliament, leading to Khan's removal from power. So there's this meeting that happened. It was a luncheon and between U.S. officials and Pakistani government officials, where the U.S. expressed their displeasure with Imran Khan, and then a month later, a no-confidence vote happens, and Imran Khan's ousted. And so that's why people are pointing this and saying the U.S. did this. And it says the vote is believed to have been organized with the backing of Pakistan's powerful military. Since that time, Khan and his supporters have been engaged in a struggle with the military and its civilian allies, whom Khan claims engineered his removal from power at the request of the U.S. Okay, so that's part of the story that was running in The Intercept. I'm going to read to you now the actual, what's called the cipher. And it's called a cipher in Pakistan. It's a classified, encrypted document, essentially, that is sent from government officials internally to other government officials. So this document is the reporting of a Pakistani government official reporting to his superiors about what happened that day in this encrypted, communication. And these are stored in a secure place with the higher ups of government. Well, apparently, this cipher document was removed and it was leaked out to Imran Khan. Now, he had this and claimed to have had this since his ouster from the parliament. And in fact, he had started off by claiming early on that his ouster was it was like a U.S. coup. And well, he kind of flip-flops back and forth, actually. So this is where it gets a little complicated with Imran Khan, because he hasn't kept his story straight. At times he has said the U.S. did this. And I'm telling you why he's saying that, because there's a real legitimate reason why everybody in Pakistan says this kind of stuff. And then he'd flip and say, no, it was the military that did this to me. There's actually leaked audio that came out last September and October of 2022. It's Imran Khan talking to people in his political party that he formed. So in Pakistan, there were a few political parties. Imran Khan came around, created a new political party. It was really popular. He's like, in Pakistan, he was a major cricket star. It's like equivalent to like a Michael Jordan here in America, back when Michael Jordan was like the hot shot. So that's Imran Khan is like this big, famous athlete. Kids had posters of him on their walls. Everybody idolized him, wanted to be like him. He was a big celebrity, and he starts a political party and ends up being prime minister. I'm going to kind of walk through more of how that ended up happening. But he's claiming that this leaked cipher document proves, and he was claiming this last year, that this leaked cipher document proved that the United States was trying to oust him. Then in leaked recordings that came out around the same time last year showed him talking to his political party buddies, claiming that this was that they were basically explaining how they wanted to hype this story up, that they needed to kind of beef up the idea that the U.S. was behind the coup, and that they needed to make this story bigger and really run with it. And there are 2 leaked audios of Imran Khan discussing that. It's in his, in Pakistani language. So I think, is that the language that they speak in Pakistan? I should have looked that up before. What's the language they speak in Pakistan? But he was speaking their native language. Do they speak Arabic? Is that what they speak? No, I don't think so. I don't think they're in Arabic. Okay. Anyway. So we can't understand that, I would play it for you, but you're not going to understand it. But in the leaked audio, that is what him and his buddies are talking about. Now, in Pakistan, it is politically, every politician, every military leader in Pakistan must say that they have to take on the tone that we are not puppets of the United States. We don't want to be puppets of the United States. The United States doesn't control us. And if you're accused in Pakistan of being aligned with the West or controlled by the West in any way, it's political doom. It's very similar to like US politicians all feeling like they need to align and pledge allegiance to Israel. In Pakistan, it's about that important for politicians and military leaders to essentially denounce any sort of canoodling with the United States. Pakistani people don't want to be, they are adamant about not being controlled by the United States. They do not want any sort of their government officials having any sort of relationship like that where they're potentially controlled or persuaded by the United States. So in Pakistan, it's a humongous no-no. So if you can claim that, well, this was a U.S. plot, you immediately, the people would be outraged. The entire, on all sides, every political aisle, it doesn't matter which side of the aisle they're on, everybody would be mad about that if it were true, including the current Prime Minister of Pakistan. When he was asked about this Cypher document and what was alleged and what The Intercept is claiming, he actually said in an interview that this would be a horrible, huge crime if that were the case, if the United States were somehow backed his government or somehow was involved in getting his government in place and ousting Imran Khan. It's a giant political no-no in Pakistan. So you have to understand that aspect of that claim, that it is, it would be like, if it became really, really popular in the United States, it's getting there, but it's not quite that popular, to claim that I'm anti-establishment. Now, many of us are actually anti-establishment. Many of the couple of politicians are actually anti-establishment. But if it became a really popular sentiment, let's say in the United States, then you would start to see every politician claim, I'm anti-establishment, right? They would feel like they have to say that. Another good example of this maybe would be like what happened to Democrats, progressives, when Bernie Sanders was running and he really built up the progressive movement. Suddenly, every Democrat started saying, I'm a progressive. And then they would change the definition of what a progressive was. And then they just continued. But they were like, no, I'm progressive, I'm progressive. So it becomes politically expedient to sort of take on certain narratives. And so not saying, that Imran Khan is taking on this U.S. is trying to coup me narrative. I guess I am kind of saying that he is just kind of co-opting that and saying the U.S. is trying to coup me because it's politically expedient to say that. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's go on and talk about what the Cypher actually says. So he claims this Cypher leaked. The U.S. is trying to oust him. Then we've got these secret recordings of Imran Khan last September and October saying, well, let's beef up this story a bit. And this is what the Cypher actually says. And then you see for yourself how much power you think the United States actually has in this particular situation. So this is a meeting between Pakistani ambassador to the United States and two State Department officials, like Assistant Secretary of States for certain regions of the United States. So, in fact, the Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asia, Donald Liu. So it starts off with this document, the Pakistani ambassador to the United States saying, I had a luncheon meeting today with Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asia, Donald Liu. He was accompanied by Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, Les Viguri, DCM, DA, and Counselor Qasim joined me. At the outset, Don, which is Donald Liu, referred to Pakistan's position on the Ukraine crisis and said that people here and in Europe are quite concerned about why Pakistan is taking such an aggressively neutral position on Ukraine, if such a position is even possible. It does not seem such a neutral stand to us. He shared that in his discussions with the NSC. It seems quite clear, quote, it seems quite clear that this is the Prime Minister's policy. He continued that he was of the view that this was, quote, tied to the current political dramas in Islamabad, that he, the Prime Minister, needs and is trying to show a public face. I replied that this was not a correct reading of the situation, as Pakistan's position on Ukraine was a result of intense interagency consultations. Pakistan had never resorted to conducting diplomacy in public sphere. The Prime Minister's remarks during a political rally were in reaction to the public letter by European ambassadors in Islamabad, which was against diplomatic etiquette and protocol. Any political leader, whether in Pakistan or the U.S., would be constrained to give a public reply in such a situation. I asked Don if the reason for such strong U.S. reaction was Pakistan's abstention in the voting in the UNGA. He categorically replied in the negative and said that it was due to the Prime Minister's visit to Moscow. So he's saying that the U.S. is upset at Pakistan for Imran Khan making a visit to Moscow on the day of the invasion. And so this ambassador to the U.S., the Pakistani ambassador to the U.S., said that Don continued to say, quote, "I think if the no confidence vote against the Prime Minister succeeds, all will be forgiven in Washington because the Russia visit is being looked at as a decision by the Prime Minister. Otherwise, I think it will be tough going ahead." So that's the key line in this cipher that everyone is pointing to, because at this time, you have to remember that Imran Khan was losing favorability. Things were going to hell in Pakistan. Inflation, economy was going to crap. Pakistan was not doing well under the leadership of Imran Khan. So he was already losing favor with people and losing favor with the government, but more importantly, the military was losing favor in Imran Khan. And we'll get into the military's very, very, very powerful grip on Pakistan. It's actually run by the military, but they had lost faith in him at this time, and they were proceeding forward with votes of no confidence to remove him from power. They no longer wanted Imran Khan there, and Imran Khan was trying to hold on to power by he's really popular in the public. I mean, we're talking to this like superstar athlete. And so he was kind of using the power of his popularity by going out there in public and doing these rallies and talking to people in order to keep the real power players at ease, to say, look, I'm popular, so you can't oust me because I'm so popular. Now, in Pakistan, there is no democracy. It's not real. The military actually runs. Pakistan's been a country for 75 years. The military has been in charge of that for half of that time. The military is very much currently in charge of Pakistan and has been. And so there is no democracy. The elections there are sham. They jail opponents. They silence the media. They'll rig the elections entirely. And this is very well known in Pakistan. The people that are there know this. A lot of people want to change that, and they want a real democracy instead of this pretend democracy. But it's not like in Pakistan, everybody knows this. It's blatant. It's not like we suspect our elections are rigged. Like what the discussion we're having here in the United States is, oh, maybe the elections are rigged, and people have these suspicions, and they maybe have evidence that they point to. But in Pakistan, it is blatant in their face. It's much more, it's known. It's not, no one thinks of this as a conspiracy theory. It's fact in Pakistan. Daily fact. Even little children know this in Pakistan. That is completely corrupt. The military runs everything, and they decide who the leaders are. And it's just fake democracy for the world to look at Pakistan and be like, well, they're having an election in Pakistan. Look at this. But it's all for show. So he was losing favor with the military, and they were thinking they wanted him gone. They were the ones who put him in power. And he was turning to the people thinking maybe maybe if the popularity of him with the people would actually pressure the military to keep him in power. Clearly it didn't work. The military didn't care. So he also took this trip to Moscow. They're saying, but so then there's this vote of no confidence that's about to happen. And in this particular cipher, the U.S. officials are saying, let's see how this vote of no confidence pans out in a month. And if it turns out that he actually gets ousted, then, probably no harm done, because his visit to Moscow looked like it was his doing and not the military, the actual military who's really in charge of Pakistan. The U.S. Officials are saying, we know it's not them. It's just Imran Khan going rogue, doing his own thing, being the charismatic guy he is. He loves to be loved. Very Trumpian in that way. And so they're like, all will be forgiven because we know that this isn't a deeper policy of Pakistan. This is just him but it just looks bad in the public eye. The prime ministers in Pakistan have no power. The military has all the power, but they're the ones that are the visible face. They're the models, the cover girls of the country. And so what they do matters because then it's how the public perceives Pakistan, how foreign countries perceive Pakistan. But in reality, the military's running everything. So that's the key line in this cipher that everyone's pointing to, where he says, I think if the no confidence vote against the prime minister succeeds, all will be forgiven in Washington because the Russia visit is being looked at as a decision by the prime minister. Otherwise, I think it'll be tough going ahead. But this guy that's talking to him goes on in the cipher to say, yeah, but, he says, but that's not what, the visit to Moscow was not on a whim. It wasn't to show support for Putin's invasion of Ukraine. He had been planning this visit for months. He tried to visit with him at the Beijing Olympics. It didn't happen. And so he'd been really wanting to meet with Putin for a long time, and he ended up just making the trip to Moscow. But this was not something that was on a whim just because he invaded Ukraine. This was in the works already. It had nothing to do with the invasion. And he's actually made comments that, kind of denounced the invasion and whatnot, and has taken a stance of, we're kind of staying out of it. But then it looked less than neutral because he actually flew to Moscow and met with Putin. Okay, so that's what you have to know, because that's what people are claiming is why Imran Khan ended up getting ousted as the prime minister by the U.S. was because he went to Moscow on the day of the Russian invasion in Ukraine, and the United States did not like that, and so that is why Imran Khan has been kicked out. And in fact, but we're going to get into this a little bit deeper, but the State Department spokesman, I want to play what he has to say, because this kind of further makes you go, ugh, clearly U.S.-backed coup, because look at how this guy is actually responding to the question. So the State Department spokesperson, Matthew Miller, was questioned, and this is what he had to say about the Intercept piece that came out and the United States' involvement in Imran Khan being ousted from prime minister position in Pakistan.
The Cypher cable, supposedly, that's been reported. I know you've had some on-record comments on this, but I wanted to ask you about the veracity of the comments. It's obviously a Pakistani document. Does the United States generally think that what was reported there, what was that?
So a few things. One, yes, it's a report reported to be a Pakistani document. I can't speak to whether it is an actual Pakistani document or not. I just simply don't know. With respect to the comments that were reported, I'm not going to speak to private diplomatic exchanges, other than to say that even if those comments were accurate as reported, they in no way show the United States taking a position on who the leader of Pakistan ought to be. We expressed concern privately to the government of Pakistan, as we expressed concern publicly about the visit of then Prime Minister Khan to Moscow on the very day of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We made that concern quite clear. But as the former Pakistani ambassador to the United States himself has stated, the allegations that the United States has interfered in internal decisions about the leadership of Pakistan are false. As we've stated, they're false. They've always been false, and they remain false.
Yeah, they're false, they're false, they're false, they're false. So that makes you think, okay, maybe they're not so false. So you can see why people would believe that this was a U.S.-backed coup, that you've got this cipher. But again, this is a report. This is a person's firsthand kind of diary entry to their boss about how the meeting went. It's not actually, the transcript or a taped call or meeting. It's just his recollection. And in that meeting, the U.S. officials said, yeah, we don't really, Imran Khan meeting with Moscow, we don't like that. The U.S. says that to even Israel about Israel's neutrality in the war in Ukraine with Russia. The United States has expressed their disdain about that with Israel, but the U.S. expresses their disdain with many countries around the world for them not going hard against Russia, joining in on the sanctions and whatnot. So Pakistan was just another one of those, actually. But it's believable to think that the U.S. would be involved. It has all the hallmark makings of a coup. But Pakistan is run by its military and not by its politicians. So it doesn't matter what Imran Khan does. I do want to show you this tweet. This is from Ben Norton. And this kind of lays out, again, why many people are believing that this is a U.S.-backed coup against Pakistan. This is the tweet. He says, why did the U.S. back the coup against Pakistan's PM, Imran Khan? He opposed the U.S. war on terror, war in Afghanistan, and drone strikes. He rejected U.S. military bases, deepened China's alliance, moved closer to Russia and Iran, and refused to normalize apartheid Israel. Okay. So if you're going to assume that a person is being ousted for those reasons, I think it would be good to look at the current prime minister and his positions on these very points, because you're going to find that the current prime minister was identical to Imran Khan on nearly all of these points, and in some cases went even further than Imran Khan, in particular when it comes to his relationship with China. The only one of those on the list where the current prime minister is in opposition to Imran Khan is on Afghanistan. That is the only one. The war on terror and the drone strikes, that is actually why Pakistani people are very much against any sort of appearance or rumors that somebody may be in collusion with the United States or a puppet of the United States or a puppet of the West. The reason why they're so upset about that is because of the drone strikes that have killed numerous children in Pakistan since the United States' war on terror launched after September 11th. That is the main reason why the Pakistani people are so turned off by the idea that you might be working at behest of the U.S., because it was very much the Pakistani military was allowing the U.S. to come into Pakistan to hunt Osama bin Laden, to hunt down terrorists, and it resulted in lots of innocent lives and lots of innocent children killed, and it has really turned the people of Pakistan off. So that's why they take the stand that they do. So the current prime minister is also against U.S. drone strikes and war on terror. The current prime minister, you can actually see these headlines here. Here's a headline of this SCMP. This is, why is Pakistan's new prime minister Shehbaz Sharif so keen to accelerate the CPEC with Beijing? It says Sharif played a key role in setting up some infrastructure projects in the CPEC's initial stages, and resuming work on the scheme will be a homecoming, an analysis said. But as Pakistan eyes expanding the pact to Afghanistan and Iran, there are concerns by the U.S. and India that Beijing may use the CPEC to deepen its military ties with Islamabad, observers said. So that's the current prime minister, Shehbaz Sharif, making big plans with China. So that can't be why Imran Khan was ousted when the current prime minister goes even further than Imran Khan ever did during the time that Imran Khan was in power. Here's another headline here. This one is about Putin. The current prime minister, Shehbaz Sharif, is very good friends with Vladimir Putin. His brother was also the prime minister of Pakistan 3 separate times, also very good friends with Putin. And here's this headline: Putin seeks Pakistan as Russia's priority partner in South Asia. Said on September 15th, Russian President Vladimir Putin, during a meeting with Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Uzbekistan, declared Pakistan as one of Moscow's primary partners in South Asia. As the Russian leader put it, I would like to note that we see Pakistan as a priority partner in South Asia, as well as the continent as a whole. Relations between our countries are developing absolutely positively, and we are pleased about that. So Imran Khan wasn't, he goes and visits Moscow, and, people could condemn that all they want, but then how do you explain Shehbaz Sharif, the current prime minister, being cozy with Putin and buying Russian oil when the United States says don't do that? Pakistan gets Russian oil. They're making all kinds of deals with Russia. They're friends with Russia. So it can't be Imran Khan was ousted because of Russia. Otherwise, the current guy would be gone. The other accusation was Israel. And yet Shehbaz Sharif has been very harsh when it comes to denouncing Israel. Here's an article: Pakistani Premier slams global silence on Israel war crimes in Palestine. So he's slamming the global silence on Israel's war crimes. Saying here, Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif on Thursday condemned Israeli violence against Palestinians in the occupied West Bank, saying Tel Aviv is committing war crimes for all practical purposes and is encouraged by global silence. quote, encouraged by global silence and without any care for the consequences, what Israel is doing in occupied West Bank constitutes war crimes for all practical purposes, Sharif said. So Imran Khan couldn't have possibly been ousted because he was harsh on Israel when the current prime minister is just as harsh on Israel, if not harsher on Israel. Where they differ is Afghanistan. Imran Khan wanted a better relationship with the Taliban, and Shehbaz Sharif is way more hesitant about that. There's actually been a lot of terrorist attacks on the Pakistani-Afghanistan border recently, and Shehbaz Sharif is very concerned about that, blames the Taliban. Imran Khan has made statements since his ouster saying that Shehbaz Sharif's rhetoric against the Taliban is only going to make things worse. Shehbaz Sharif doesn't agree and believes that going hard against the Taliban and forcing them to crack down on these terrorist attacks is the better strategy to deal with Afghanistan. So they differ a bit on Afghanistan, but I have a hard time believing that that is why Imran Khan was ousted. If that's the one difference they have between them is on their strategy with how to deal with the Taliban, I don't know if that's the big reason. Now, something that people point to is that Imran Khan was going to block U.S. bases, Pakistan hosting any more U.S. bases. It's not up to Imran Khan. It's not up to Shehbaz Sharif, the current prime minister. The military runs Pakistan. They decide. They decide everything. So it wouldn't even be, Imran Khan can make all the statements he wants, and he was making a lot of statements that were very anti-U.S. Again, it's very popular to be anti-U.S. in Pakistan. So he was making all of these public statements because it made the public love him. And that did piss off the U.S. a bit. But Pakistan, the military, was doing what the military does. And when U.S. leaders fly into Pakistan to have meetings with people in power, they don't meet with the prime minister of Pakistan. They meet with the leaders. They meet with the generals. That's who they go and talk to because the generals are actually in charge of Pakistan. But it's nice if the public face of Pakistan is in line with what the generals are saying. And the generals agree with that. The generals want a puppet. That is why they picked Imran Khan. They're looking for someone who's going to carry out their agenda publicly. And they turned to Imran Khan. They boosted him up. They propped him up. They got him into power. And then he loved the limelight, which they should have probably assumed he was going to. And he ultimately lost his favor with the military, and they ultimately took him out, like they do every other prime minister in Pakistan. I want to read this story to you. This is from 2018, before Imran Khan was actually elected as the prime minister in Pakistan. This is from Al Jazeera saying, is Imran Khan the Pakistani military's favorite son? Given Khan's personality and policy positions, there's a reason to doubt that he's the army's blue-eyed boy. Now, this was before the election, and Al Jazeera is casting doubt on the rumors that were circulating that the military was backing Imran Khan, that they liked him as the potential new prime minister of Pakistan. It was hard for people to believe, but many were thinking, oh, it's totally Imran Khan. The military's backing him, so he will be the leader. It says here in the article, a big storyline in the lead up to Pakistan's July 25th election has been the nature of the relationship between Imran Khan and the cricket star turned politician and leader of the Pakistan PTI party and the country's powerful military. According to insinuations of some top leaders with the incumbent Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz Party, the military is working behind the scenes to engineer an electoral outcome that results in a government helmed by Khan. It's a theory. One could certainly call it even a conspiracy theory, embraced by many commentators inside and outside Pakistan. Indeed, Pakistan's army, which has held direct power for nearly half of Pakistan's 70-year existence and has enjoyed an outsized role in politics when not in direct control, does have a strong incentive to undercut the PMLN, which it spars frequently in recent years, and to help propel the PML's main challenger, the PTI, to victory. So saying that the military and the previous party in power were not getting along, they were sparring publicly, and the military had reason to want to oust that party from power. And instead back this new party, the PTI, which was created by Imran Khan. Indeed, events of recent weeks, arrests of PML and members, dozens of parliamentarians throwing their support behind the PTI, and the sentencing of former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif to prison less than 3 weeks before the poll, the sentencing of another top PML leader, Hanaf Abbasi, to life in prison on drug smuggling charges just 4 days before the election, and the censoring of media outlets perceived to produce favorable coverage of Sharif all point to the possibility of efforts by the military and a politicized judiciary to undercut the PML electoral prospects. So the military was throwing Imran Khan's political opponents in jail, jailing even some of them to life in prison, silencing the media, telling them you cannot report, and doing all of and giving all this favorable coverage to Imran Khan, doing all of these things to absolutely put Imran Khan in power. And here's Al Jazeera actually questioning, that can't possibly be. They're not really looking to put Imran Khan in power. Well, they were, and they did. So they were wrong on this article, but they still lay out what the public was thinking at the time, what some of the things the military had done at that time to put Imran Khan into power. And so they were laying it out, and it ended up being true. The conspiracy theory, what they called a conspiracy theory, was true, and Imran Khan was put into power by the Pakistani military. Here's even another article saying the same sort of thing, saying that Imran Khan is the army's choice, and this is before he got elected, and he was. So he was put into power. He was the army's choice. Well, this is actually after he was elected. Why did Pakistan's all-powerful military back Imran Khan for prime minister? And will he do what it demands of him, or try to implement some of his own long-standing policies? Well, it turns out when Imran Khan got into power, he did love the limelight. He believed that because he was so popular with the people, that he could undercut the military's power. The military did not like that, and ultimately that is why Imran Khan was ousted. He lost favor by the military. They absolutely started to hate him. So a lot of people are pointing at the fact that Imran Khan is jailed and he is now being banned from serving, or being in politics for 5 years as evidence that this is a coup against him. They're maybe even thinking that is a bizarre event here in the United States. It certainly would be. We're seeing something very similar here in the United States that is unprecedented. And so they're pointing at that sort of from the lens of thinking Pakistani politics are like the United States politics. But let's go over the list of some of the realities of Pakistani politics. The first thing to know is that never in the history of Pakistan, never in the history, not once, has a prime minister served out their full term. Not once. They've all been ousted, every single last one of them. So this isn't like Imran Khan didn't get to serve his full term and this was an ousting of the guy because he did these variety of things that was against the military establishment. No, none of them have. And many of them have been jailed, thinking that Imran Khan is a lone wolf, he's a political prisoner, and that this is something totally unique. Let's go over some of the people who have been jailed in Pakistani politics, the prime ministers who've been jailed, because he just joins the club of pretty much the rest. One of the fifth prime minister was jailed, Hussein Shahad Sohar. I don't know if I can't, but he was the fifth prime minister. He was arrested on bogus charges of anti-state activities. That's what they got him for. But in reality, his crime was his refusal to support military ruler General Ayub Khan. So he went against the military and they got rid of him. Another one was Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. He served as the 9th prime minister. He was arrested on charges of conspiracy to murder a political opponent in 1974, and he was sentenced to death, and he was actually hanged. So a few years in jail, which is what Imran Khan is getting, is nothing compared to what Bhutto got. Bhutto got the death sentence, and he was hanged. His daughter also served as prime minister twice, from 1988 to 1990, and again from 1993 to 1996. She was arrested several times for corruption, and her family members were also targeted for corruption. She ended up later being assassinated. So, that's definitely a terrible outcome. Nawaz Sharif, he is the brother of the current prime minister. Nawaz Sharif served 3 times as prime minister. The first time he served, then he later came back and served again. The second time he served, the military came back and did a coup while he was prime minister, and they ousted him. And then they arrested him for the charges against him were kidnapping, attempted murder, hijacking, terrorism, and corruption. He was sentenced to life in prison until Saudi Arabia actually intervened, and they asked for him to be allowed exile in Saudi Arabia instead of living life in prison, and that was granted. The generals didn't want to upset the Saudis, and so they just said, all right, fine, we'll let him go live in Saudi Arabia. So him and his current brother, who is the current prime minister of Pakistan, they actually hightailed it off to Saudi Arabia and exiled there together. The family exiled there. They then later came back. So Nawaz Sharif, again, was sentenced to life in prison for things like kidnapping and terrorism and murder and all these terrible things. Later on, everything calms down and there's some, I guess, forgiveness because he's allowed to come back into the country. And not only is he allowed to come back in, but they let him become prime minister again, even after all of that. So he serves again as prime minister, but they didn't like him. Again, the military got mad at him, and so they decided to oust him again, and they charged him with corruption charges, and he is now in exile in the UK. So that is where that guy is, the brother of the current prime minister. The current prime minister was actually also arrested on charges of money laundering, Shehbaz Sharif. He served some time in jail for that. The charges are still, I suppose, pending against him. He wasn't ever charged, but it says he was just released on bail in money laundering charges. And then he, a year later, became the prime minister of Pakistan. So it seems like he might still have these charges looming, which is, what the military would do, because they would say, you cross us, we're going to implement the rest of those charges. We'll let you be prime minister until you piss us off. And then those charges, you're going to have to face them and you're going to end up going to jail, which I'm sure Shehbaz Sharif believes that at some point he's probably going to be ousted and sentenced, and he's going to have to go seek exile in the UK with his brother. That's likely his fate. The prime minister before Shehbaz Sharif was Abbasi, before Imran Khan, this was Abbasi. He was also arrested in July of 2019 in connection with a corruption case, but then he was bailed out. And now you've got Imran Khan, and now he's serving time in jail on, again, corruption charges. So this is par for the course. This is not new in Pakistan. This is not new. Arresting, even assassinating, jailing, death penalty, prime ministers being ousted before their term is up. This is par for the course in Pakistan, unfortunately. They're not a democracy. They're a military-run country, and they do what they want. And if they don't like the prime minister and the policies or how they're behaving, or if they think that the prime minister is getting a head too big and thinks that he's going to overtake the military at some point and actually turn Pakistan into a democracy, then he's got another thing coming, and that's what happened with Imran Khan. The big question is why he fell out of favor with the military, and it's a little bit unclear. There was a big beef between him and the previous chief of army staff of Pakistan and the current chief of army staff who ended up taking over. There was a lot of squabble between Imran Khan and these gentlemen. There was apparently rumors that Imran Khan was backing a different military leader. The previous chief of army staff was set to retire, and it was set for this new one who's in power now, Munir, to take over. Imran Khan doesn't get along with Munir. They've had a long history of not liking each other. Munir actually accused Imran Khan's wife of corruption and produced some documents to that effect back in 2019. That put the two of them at odds with each other. And then when Munir was set to become the new chief of army staff, Imran Khan was sniffing around for the military, to kind of create an alliance inside the military to bring somebody else to power. So it really was sort of this internal squabble with the military where Imran Khan was backing one guy, the rest of the military establishment backed this other guy, the guy that's currently the chief of army staff, who's the most powerful person in Pakistan. And he made enemies inside the military. The military did not like that. The military is the ones who put him in power, and the military ultimately wanted him out of power because of it. So they ousted him, and they brought back a guy who, interestingly, if we go back to that Al Jazeera article, let's go back to that one. Is Imran Khan the Pakistani military's favorite son? At the end of this article, because they're saying, no, it can't possibly be Imran Khan. He's got too big of a head and he's too big of a celebrity. they can't, that those rumors can't be true, and they were true. But they actually said later on in this article, they said a potentially more palatable prime minister choice for the military hails from the very party that the armed forces may be trying to undercut. Shehbaz Sharif, the brother of Nawaz, would be the PMLN's candidate for premier if it wins the election. So they were actually pointing at the now current prime minister. They're saying he would be a better choice for the military. You know, the military's, mad at his political party, but the political party is making changes. They're wanting to put this guy as the head of their party, and he's actually a better choice for the military. He's the guy that they should pick. They went with Imran Khan. They ousted Imran Khan, and they ultimately defaulted to exactly who this Al Jazeera article is pointing to. They said, while lacking his brother's charisma, he has a solid reputation as a capable and steady politician, and he gets along well with the military. Strikingly, in a recent interview with the Financial Times, Shehbaz Sharif called for the PML and the military to improve their ties. If the military truly has a favorite son, Shehbaz Sharif may have better claim to the title than does Imran Khan. And funny enough, Shehbaz Sharif is now the Prime Minister of Pakistan, because that's how it works in Pakistan. The military is in charge. And you have to remember, before we make accusations of a U.S.-backed coup, it's true the U.S. didn't like what Imran Khan was doing. They probably don't like a lot of what Shehbaz Sharif is doing when it comes to China and Israel and Russia buying oil. I mean, there's a lot of things he's doing that are absolutely against what the U.S. wants. But the U.S. doesn't really get a say in Pakistan because Pakistan has nukes. It's a nuclear country. You can't forget that. And the U.S. typically backs off and doesn't meddle when it comes to nuclear armed countries. That's why we saw the race for nukes in North Korea. We saw the U.S. attempting to do everything that we could to halt the nuclear development program in North Korea. Same thing with Iran, because any country, once they gain nukes, what can the U.S. do? You know, you just don't want to make an enemy. And it's really, the U.S., when the U.S. goes around doing all these coups in different countries, what the end result always ends up being is destabilization of that country. The last thing anybody wants, and I mean anybody, from the U.S. to Russia to India to absolutely anybody, is a nuclear-armed, collapsing Pakistan with a country that has a strong population who are jihadists, who could ultimately gain power of those nukes. That is the last thing anybody wants. It is, if there's one country that could join the rest of the world together, it would be halting any sort of collapse in Pakistan and halting any sort of risk that there could be jihadists who end up with nukes in Pakistan. It would be a nightmare for absolutely everybody. So it is in no one's interest for that to happen. Because you know that, especially with the sentiment in Pakistan that people have towards the United States of meddling and causing all kinds of problems, you wouldn't want those very angry people who have a chip on their shoulder for very good reason to have nukes. And, the U.S. doesn't really want that. So I do believe our government is crazy. I believe that we've got leaders who are absolutely reckless and make extremely reckless, terrible, dangerous decisions. But I can't imagine I say that, but I should probably knock on wood, right? Because they probably are that crazy to try and attempt to destabilize a country like Pakistan with nukes and jihadists who would be more than happy to point them at us. But I don't think that's actually what they were trying to do. I think that they are happy with the military in charge of Pakistan. The military that is currently there is cozy with the West, is actually cozy with everybody. Pakistan is a country that is corrupt. The military enjoys a lot of money. If you remember when Imran Khan was arrested back in May, where did the people take out their anger? Where did his supporters take out the anger? They didn't burn American flags and think it was a U.S.-based backed coup. No, and the people know, the Pakistani people know, they raided the military. They went after generals' homes. They started lighting them on fire. They tried to go after the army headquarters. That's where they went. They went straight to the military because they were mad at the military. They knew that the military were ousting their guy. And the military is just corrupt with their big lavish homes. You probably saw that if you watched those protests. The military generals have these homes that are like palaces. And they're corrupt. They're taking money from everybody. They want to be everybody's friend. They don't like leaders in power who are going to make any enemies at all because they're trying to keep They like playing footsie with everybody and getting what they can out of everybody. They like playing footsie with China and Russia and maybe India if they can solve their issue with Kashmir. And they love to play footsie with the West, and they want to play footsie with Iran, and they want to play footsie with everybody they can if it benefits them. That's how that country operates. So yes, the military is friendly with the United States. They like the United States. They also like a lot of other people, but nobody really controls Pakistan. Unfortunately, Pakistan is controlled by its military, and the people of Pakistan would like that to change. They would like democracy, real true democracy there, but it would take, I'm not really 100% certain what it would take in Pakistan. Really, people, what we saw May 9th, the people rising up against the military, probably a lot more of that is what eventually will get things to maybe shift in Pakistan and for the people to actually gain a democracy. It's possible, but the people are going to have to do it. It won't be a coup by any other country. It's going to be done by the Pakistani people themselves. All right, guys, that is it for tonight's show. Thank you so much for joining and listening. Love to hear your thoughts on this. Share with me your assessment. I would love to hear it. Email me, kim@kimiversen.com. Tomorrow on my locals community, I'm going to be reading some of these emails in my locals community. So join my locals, and that is how you can also support this show, support my independent journalism. You just click that button down below and you can join for, I think, $5 a month or maybe $50 a year. And it helps support the show. And I'm going to be interacting with your emails tomorrow in a video. So be sure to join in then. And otherwise, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We will not be having a show tomorrow. We're having a 3-day weekend, essentially, while the construction is going on here in the building. And we will be back Monday with another great show, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Until then, guys, have a great night. Bye-bye.